Joining us on the phones right now, GOP political strategist Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Chad. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Last week was not a great week for Donald Trump, mainly because he took to Twitter and he kept bringing up the former Miss Universe. Is this week, and you know, it seems like everyone is pumping out the same thing that I even posted on my morning brief today, which is basically this is a very important week for Donald Trump. Do you see it the same way? Is this a huge week for Trump?
Yeah, I think it is. And, you know, we haven't seen a lot of polling since the debate. I mean, we saw some polling about who, quote, won the debate. But the question is whether the debate impacted voter decision-making. And we just haven't seen, there hasn't been a lot of post-debate polling in terms of the horse race. So I predict we will see some of that in the next 2 or 3 days, and I think that'll tell us a lot about where the race is. You know, the question is whether Hillary stopped Trump's momentum with the first debate or whether she did that and gained momentum and vote herself. And so that you know, we don't really know exactly where Trump is right now. My guess is he has lost not just momentum, but also some vote, perhaps in a 1 to 3 point range, which would give Hillary a pretty solid 3 to 5 point lead nationally. So it is a big week. I mean, you know, it's ridiculous that we're here 40 days from the election and we have to talk about him, you know, being reasonably disciplined at this point. If he would just behave for 1 month, he's going to give himself a chance to be the next president of the United States. Yeah. But he just clearly doesn't have, you know, the level of self-control that you would imagine a major party nominee would have. So I don't know. Right now, you know, all the coverage has been about what a bad week he had last week, what a bad debate he had, and of course this New York Times tax story, which raises questions he can only answer if he releases his tax returns, which he's not going to do. So the sort of cloud of uncertainty about his tax situation is going to continue unabated. We'll obviously have the vice presidential debate Tuesday night, and then the next presidential debate 5 or 6 days after that. So we are in a crucial period here, and he's got to get momentum back. And he can start doing that by demonstrating discipline on the campaign trail.
Before we get to the New York Times story, let's say we start seeing polls that come out, and we've seen, well, I think I saw one out of Virginia where he's down maybe 7 points in Virginia. I may have that one wrong. He may be down 4 points. There was one that had him down 4 points, one had him down 7 points. That might have been a national. What is the threshold for Trump when you start seeing these polling numbers come out where he's on the danger line?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Virginia's crucial. I was kind of counting on him losing Virginia and have been for the last 3 or 4 months, particularly when Hillary chose Tim Kaine. I thought that really took Virginia off the board. I think Colorado is off the board. There's a number of states there that you know, Michigan. Trump was in Michigan late last week. I can't imagine he wins Michigan. To me, it comes down to Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania. You know, if he got to a point where he was solidly losing in Florida or Ohio, this thing's over and he has absolutely no path. Pennsylvania, you know, my guess is he's going to be losing there all the way to Election Day. The question is, can he close it so tight that he finds a way to barely win Pennsylvania on Election Day? So to me, those 3 states are the whole ballgame. You know, he can still technically win the presidency without Pennsylvania by trading New Hampshire, Iowa, and Nevada, and that gets him to 269 electoral votes. He can pick up one more with the individual delegate in Nebraska or the individual delegate in Maine. So there is a path there for him, but boy, that's a narrow path. And so to me, it just comes back, you know, if you forget everything else about a complicated race for president, it comes down to Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, and he should win Ohio. Chuck Todd asked Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook on Sunday if they're abandoning Ohio, and of course he denied it. But the fact that he even asked the question tells you that Ohio's trending in Trump's direction. And again, Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania are the whole ballgame.
Yeah. Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, this New York Times story that came out Saturday, media is blowing it up to be a huge, huge story. And it is, I guess, on one hand, if you know, maybe those who don't know completely what's going on, but it seems to me as though Trump didn't break any laws here, and that he took a big loss and that he used U.S. law to benefit his company and to benefit his shareholders and his family. Is there a way where he can explain that and boil it down to, hey, you know what? The average voter doesn't want to pay any more in taxes than they legally are obligated to. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah. So the story was based on 1 year's tax returns, which were anonymously mailed to him from a source to the New York Times about 10 days ago. The year was 1995. That year it showed he lost, I think it was $913 million. Now, that was when his casino in New Jersey failed. It was kind of probably his low point financially. Business owners and accountants that might be listening right now understand that the idea of a loss carry forward, a net loss carry forward, and what that means for tax purposes. But what it basically means is you take the net loss that you put on your tax returns, and you can apply that to future net gains over a period of years. And so the Times story was talked to a tax expert, and they said, listen, if he basically didn't make any money for the next 21 years, he could not pay any taxes, because over time he would be applying, portions of that net loss to his tax returns, and he could avoid paying taxes. That would only be true if he wasn't making money. I mean, I heard Rudy Giuliani say over the weekend that he made over $600 million in 2015 alone. So that would take away 2/3 of that net loss carry forward. But again, what's so kind of clever about this is, again, it puts Trump in a position where he can't disprove the conjecture without releasing his tax returns, which he doesn't want to do, which he's refused to do, which he said are under audit, and he's not going to do it until that's complete. So, to me, I agree with you. I don't know. He didn't do anything illegal. I mean, using a net loss carry forward is something almost every business in the United States does. I don't think he avoided taxes for 21 years. He may have avoided it for 3 or 5 or 7 years, perhaps 10 years maybe. The 90s were not a good time for some of his businesses. But, if he made $600 million in 2015, that wipes out 2/3 of that net loss.
Right.
So, again, we're not going to know the specifics on this, because I just think he's going to take on as much water as he has to. He's not going to release his tax returns. And, without knowing what's in there, it's hard to know whether that's the right decision for him to make strategically or not.
Let's move on real quickly. VP debate. Most of the time, these things don't matter. This is not a regular election, though. Does the VP debate matter tomorrow night?
My sense is no. I think both these candidates have been pretty low profile. They haven't made a lot of mistakes. They're not getting a lot of coverage. They're kind of doing the job the VP candidate is supposed to do. I think the Trump campaign does need Pence to sort of take attention off some of this negativity and put it back on the message they're running on, right? Shaking up Washington, bringing an outsider to the White House, changing the direction of the country after 8 years. That kind of message. And honestly, Mike Pence is going to be very, very disciplined on Tuesday night. I have high expectations for him. He's not a Marco Rubio level communicator, but he's pretty good. He has a Reagan quality to the way that he communicates, and he does it with sunny optimism and a smile on his face. We'll see how good Tim Kaine is. I mean, he has a lot of national experience, too, having been governor of Virginia and having now been serving in his second term in the U.S. Senate. He's been in a lot of debates over the years, particularly on the U.S. Senate floor. And of course, he was DNC chairman, so he did a lot of national interviews over those years. So, to me, my guess is the one takeaway from the debate, Chad, is most of the country is going to look at this and say, God, if those were just the two presidential candidates, we would have such a better campaign and such a better future for the country.
Visit with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, we've got another debate going on this Sunday, presidential debate. So it's supposed to be a town hall format. And the news that I saw yesterday is that Chris Christie was doing debate prep with Donald Trump and Roger Ailes was not doing debate prep with Donald Trump. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Oh, man, who knows? Look, Roger Ailes has done a lot of this over the years and understands television better than probably anyone currently living. So I have a high degree of confidence in his abilities. I don't think Trump was necessarily executing their strategy, and I don't think he took the debate prep very seriously the first time around. Whether he wants to pretend he won because some online poll dominated by Russians showed he did, most people that watch that debate know that Hillary clearly won it. And he can't have that happen again. He's got to at least have a tie and probably has to have a clear victory. And the town hall is totally different. You're interacting with voters directly. Your body language matters to a greater extent. It's just a totally different kind of thing. And you got to remember, Trump doesn't do town halls in the campaign trail. Well, usually you see presidential candidates do actual town hall type meetings. Trump doesn't do them. He does rallies instead. So, Christie was pretty good in the debates in the primary. He's a very strong and sharp communicator. My hope is he can really, as a peer, kind of talk directly to him and shake him up and get him focused on what their strategy is and how they execute it. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's taken 12 days between debates and trying to take someone who hasn't learned much over the last year and cram for the final exam. That usually doesn't work. So I have low expectations again. Hopefully he does better. Hopefully he makes Hillary play defense a little bit. He didn't really do that in the first debate, and I thought there were a lot of missed opportunities out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, also co-founder of MustReadTexas.com. Matt, what do you have up on the website today?
Yeah, two things. One, Speaker Paul Ryan will be coming into San Antonio to campaign for Will Hurd, who's in one of the 5 top congressional races in the country in October, so that's one thing to watch. The other is my biweekly Austin American Statesman column makes the case for the Texas legislature to formally outlaw sanctuary cities. So you can find both those stories in addition to all the top news, opinion, and blog items from around the state of Texas at mustreadtexas.com.
Real quick, I forgot to ask you, we'll probably talk about this a little bit more next Monday, but if Donald Trump bombs in this next debate, how soon does the RNC shift money to down-ballot races looking at the U.S. Senate?
I think it depends a lot on polling. The RNC chairman's been asked this question before, and he says it's really hard to sort of support one candidate on the ground but not another. They're basically supporting the entire ticket. But I think you are going to see a panic. You're going to see donors stop giving to Trump, start giving aggressively to Senate candidates so that they can overperform Trump to have a chance to keep the Senate. So it just depends how bad it is, and it depends how bad the polling gets.
Okay.
We'll have to see.
All right, Matt, appreciate your time, and we'll visit with you on Monday.
Take care, Chad. Thanks a lot.
Have a good one. That's Matt Mackowiak. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak. It's something that the Trump campaign, they've got to be ready for this debate. And I really do believe that this is a make or break debate for Donald Trump. Because if he falls apart in this upcoming debate, you're not going to have a lot of people tune in for the third one. It's going to be done at that point.